Welcome to the Disruptance Podcast. The Disruptance Podcast is the show that disrupts the way entrepreneurs think to make them more profitable and impactful. Rethink tired and outdated business norms to welcome innovation and unlock your unlimited possibilities. Here are your hosts, Eric Forney and Greg Fowler.
Eric, another one, my friend. I cannot wait to dive into this episode of Disruptance. And as one of my favorite topics, this is pop questions, Eric on the hot seat. I think this is the second time we've done this with the massive demand. It's coming back again in here. So I can't wait to jump in, man.
Let's do it. Let's see. So, I'm scared a little bit, but we'll see.
And just again, to the audience out there, the fans of Disruptance here, Eric does not know what questions I'm going to ask. This is completely off the cuff through this man's brain. So we'll see what we get out of him again. Love the last episode we did this. So here's another one. So the first question here, Eric, what's an insult you've received that you're actually proud of?
Sometimes my wife says that I'm hardcore and obsessive. And in the moment, I take offense to that. Now, what she's not saying is that like I'm that way as a partner or as a parent. However, she's just saying that if you were going to summarize or generalize my personality, that's the claim that she makes of me. I take it initially as an insult, and then I initially distance myself and realize I probably am fairly unwavering around certain like standards or expectations. And I'm also pretty hardcore and obsessive about whatever I'm interested in. I'm either 0 or 100. There's no real in between.
But that being an insult, I completely get that. And I'm sure that a lot of the audience members have heard that too from friends, family members, colleagues. And that one's an interesting one to say the least, Eric. And I think that might tie into this next one, maybe not into number 2.
Okay.
Let's see. So how would your parents describe what you do? If you're them, put yourselves in their shoes. Yeah. What does Eric Forney do? What does he do for a living, a career path? You know, what would they say?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if they know. Let's see. I'm a professional meeting attender, maybe a late night office closer upper, a Zoom extraordinaire, and something to do with real estate. We're not exactly sure what most of the time, but something to do with real estate. Most of it involves talking to people, but they're not quite sure exactly what that is. They don't know if I wear pants or not either.
Depending if you're on a Zoom, Eric, or a stream card.
Most of my day is spent on Zoom, so no one knows. I may not be wearing pants right now, Greg. You just don't know.
Well, hey, you know what? The fans and I will be guessing. That's for sure. I could be in the same boat. But Eric, you know, that question to me is interesting in that nature, because I think if a lot of us reflect back on that, most people don't really know what entrepreneurs or real estate professionals do on a regular basis. And you know, I can reflect onto myself. I think that that's a funny thing. I mean, we're so, I don't want to say consumed onto our identities and kind of what we do on a day-to-day and how we're making shifts and changes, that we don't really take a moment to realize that most people don't care. They don't know. They don't care. You know, it's just interesting to think about that. But
it's funny. I never, to this day, we always joke in our family that no one ever knows what my dad ever did for a living. We just came to the realization that he just probably was in the CIA or something. Because anytime he attempted to explain it, it was just some like gobbledygook jargon of bullshit that you didn't quite really understand with any degree of clarity. And so we just stopped asking and just assumed that he was like some sort of foreign agent.
Oh, I love that. And you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, Eric. I don't know if you ever thought this way. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just weird. But I haven't done this yet, but I think I'm going to have to try it. You know, introducing myself and somebody asks you the same question, like, hey, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Saying that you're a part of the CIA, or, hey, I'm a part of the witness protection program, just say
Yeah.
something completely random,
Hmm.
because to me, it just cracks me up. And so many people get wrapped up in what they do for a living. It just kind of develops their personality. And I don't know, it's funny. I think it's self-projected. Interesting question for everybody to ask themselves. What would your family say you do?
It is fascinating though, like that. There's I've waffled between this. I've gone through a full cycle of belief around this. Around what one of the questions we often ask people to that point is, "What do you do for a living?"
Mhm.
And then you get some shade, like from some who are like, "Well, you're more than what you do for a living." And the reality is, yet that's actually the bulk of how you spend your time
Mhm.
is working.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're more than that, but it is the bulk of your entire waking life
Mhm.
is to actually work. So I don't know. I don't think it's as bad of a question as I once did. In the sense of like work is intended to create,
Mhm.
right? And so what is wrong with creating? You've got little kid, right? You've got
Yeah.
little ones. Like we don't hate. I mean, I don't know if yours are like mine, but every single minute of every single day, Hudson's like, "Can we play? I don't want to play,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to do anything. I just want to play."
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's no reason why work shouldn't be the same way.
I agree, and Olivia's the same way, as you mentioned. As Hudson, it's the same thing, and it's a funny reflection, and that's why I love these questions, kind of going through, and it dives dialogue into it. So this is another one into the keep question that we're going here. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I
And let's
probably
let's get rid of your career for a second. So we just talked about
yeah.
your career. So let's just say you just pick a place on a map. Where would it be and why?
I could do the majority of my job from almost anywhere, so I can accept that doesn't even because I don't have to wear pants to do my job,
That's
and
right.
so that helps a lot. I think I know what my wife would say, and I wouldn't be opposed to this either. So I'm going to go with that answer. We on our honeymoon we rented a what amounted to be basically like a one bedroom house with a separate one bedroom like accessory dwelling that was
Mhm.
right on the rocks of the Pacific Ocean in Hawaii.
Wow.
So I think that's where we would live. Kona, Hawaii. That'd be our choice.
I could see that, Eric. I could see, the wetsuit, the surfboard,
Uh,
kind of.
yeah, probably
No.
not me, but I just it just would at least my it would be an improvement for sure. It's like 6 hours behind, so I'd have an excuse to not be on as many meetings or as many phone calls,
There you
and
go.
it'd be perfect. It'd be
I love
perfect.
this. I love this thought when you're going down this one. Now, this one, Eric, is gonna throw you for a loop, or hopefully in a positive way. And I love these kind of hypothetical thought processes that may or may not be able to actually happen. If you could have coffee with a historical figure, any time period, who would you choose? Who would you have a cup of coffee with, Eric?
I mean, I think it would be foolish. This was not my initial thought, but this is where I'm landing. I think it would be silly to say that you wouldn't have coffee with Jesus or whatever your, spiritual religious leader is. I
Hmm.
just think it would be such a fascinating perspective. We probably don't have enough time to go down this rabbit hole, but just the interesting intersection of how the like teachings and principles and philosophy of life and the role model of how one should conduct themselves according to religious text that truth compared to the way that man has interpreted it and bastardized it and
Ooh.
modified it for their own selfish benefit would be an interesting conversation to have understanding and all religious texts at this point in time have survived multiple millennia and so anything with that kind of staying power would be a fascinating conversation to understand more.
Wow. No, that'd be
And that was
incredible, and that's
what
a
I was
good.
going with.
That was a good thought process. I wasn't sure you were going to go that way. It's interesting to kind of look at that and ask yourself as to why. But that kind of giving perspective onto where we've been and what the truth behind the situation straight from the source. Because as you mentioned that, it kind of reminds me of that old game, like the telephone game, with the
Yeah.
cup and the string, and eventually, if it goes far enough, you're going to kind of lose the original message. And that would be fascinating to kind of hear it direct.
Well, I mean, Craig, just think about it. I mean, think of all the wars that have started over religion,
hmm,
and there's nothing that's further from war than religion. The idea of that just in this context. I mean, you just think Jesus had one commandment, and the one commandment was love one another, and yet you see that it's gotten so far from that singular directive that there are wars as a byproduct of that.
hmm,
And it's because of all of the other texts. It's because all of the other distraction, all the complication, all of the people components of it.
hmm.
And yet the timeless principles are so almost seemingly underwhelming and mundane that people gloss over them. I know, even myself, as a kid, I, for whatever reason, used to know, like, I used to be able to spout off lots of Bible verses.
Huh.
I can't do that anymore. I couldn't tell you where most context is. However, as an adult, I've spent more time understanding just religion in general, and I just find it to be such an interesting book of principles and role models of how to conduct yourself, um, whatever your belief, whatever your affiliation is.
Wow. And
It's a
I didn't know
timeless
that
book of
about you.
principles. It's a timeless book of life principles.
Oh, no, but that to me, Eric, it's always an interesting thought process, and I don't know, as you're reflecting back on that and going the deep way that you always go, I would have said something like Frank Sinatra. I don't know. I just think he
Okay.
lived a really interesting life, and
Okay.
I want to know what it was like, and straight from just having a conversation with somebody. It's so completely different. One is actually useful.
Frank Sinatra was not on my MySpace top 8. I'm not going to lie. He was
Oh, come
not
on.
on my top 8.
That
I was going to
brings
go
me
with Abraham Lincoln as number 2. But I don't know why. I really don't know why.
I want to know if he's really earned the Honest Abe moniker. That would be an interesting
Yeah, there
thing.
you go. There you go.
But so let me go to this one. What about if you won $10 million tomorrow? Now this is just free and clear, all the money. Forget no taxes, everything. Just 10 million as it is. Even you could do anything you want with it. What would you do with it?
Yeah. After I bought Bitcoin, I would I would go back to work.
Yeah.
I would invest it, and business and life as usual.
Good man. Good man. I think that's the right way to do it. I mean, so many people, and you've heard all these crazy stories of, these jackpot winners and all these things. They win all this money and then they start and they blow it and they're worse off than when they were before. I mean, there's so much craziness behind, that sort of mentality, but doing the right things with it. I think obviously investing and putting the money to make sure that it's working for you in some capacity. I mean, to me, I would look at it and say, hey, friends, family, if I could help in some small way to do that. But I mean, this money gets burned up so quick. I mean, it's nuts, but interesting thought.
I don't spend money very well. I mean, in a silly way, like,
Yeah.
Buying a $7. I was looking at this app this morning, this podcast app, and the subscription's $5. I've got it. Like, we're good for it. We're good for the $5.
Good man.
No, can't pull the trigger on it. Like, I just don't spend money well. So I don't know that I would do anything. There's nothing that I want. There's nothing that money can buy that will change me at this point. So there's no reason to do anything different with 10 million than what we're doing already today without 10 million.
And Eric, that's maybe a powerful message for everybody to tune into, is just to be, understand where you are and be happy with what your situation is. And everything that we have or everything that we don't have is based off our decisions and our actions that are there. And I know we did an incredible episode about wealth building and just kind of distribution. You broke that down beautifully. So I'd encourage everybody to go back, if you missed that episode, to take a look, have a listen, if it ends up being that way. But yeah, I think that there's some fundamental truths to that people just don't want to admit. And it doesn't change you and to that extent, but so many people just kind of, they see the story, they fall in love with the romance, and they move forward with that. So let me go into this one. Oh, Eric, I really want to know what your thoughts are on this. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, hearing people chew. If I'm ever convicted, or if I'm ever, a suspect in a murder, the cause of it would be hearing someone chew food loudly for a long, extended period of time. That would for sure be the first step towards initiating some homicidal outrage, for sure.
My favorite response. This is so great. Oh, I love it. I love
I
it. I
have
love
an
it.
office by myself for a reason, and because I can't stand to hear people chew. And I love my child like no one else, and I can tolerate it because he's 6,
Yep.
and so I can hear him chew. But I'm not going to pretend that I don't notice it every single time. um, and Lauren looks at me every time, just knowing that like I'm contemplating. I don't contemplate a response to him,
Yep.
but with everyone else for sure.
It almost is like the nails on a chalkboard
Oh yeah.
for you,
Oh,
Eric,
we
when
had,
it comes down to that. What?
we had to stop a meeting the other day because I could hear someone eating during the meeting, and like Lauren just knows that I can't stand it, so she literally like was like, "Hang on, I gotta just." Eric can't do anything. He's spectruming right now, so she intervened on my behalf.
Gosh, I love it. What a great response to that one, Eric. This is so good. Okay, so let's go into this one. When it comes down to it, and I would love your thought as always and perspective on it. What do you think the world will look like in 50 years from now?
Oh man, it'll look a lot of the same. The cool part though is that our kids will have the ability to create and be more creative than ever. We'll have innovation, of course. We'll get rid of the stupid human tricks that we've been doing, like tying shoes and writing in cursive and reading and spelling, and all of the things that people are not inherently designed to be great at, because we'll replace those things with technology. But fundamentally, from an infrastructure standpoint and from a day-to-day life, most of it will look similar, but it will be augmented by innovations and efficiency. If you think back 50 years ago, you wouldn't have had TVs that were the size of a wall, and they had remote controls, and you didn't actually you had more than 4 channels, and in fact you would have something in your pocket that you would watch more TV on than your actual TV itself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yet, by the same token, people behave generally the same. There's a fantastic book by the greatest living author, Morgan Housel, that I read probably in one sitting, which is rare for me. But the book, I'm going to screw the title up now that I think about it, but it's something like, well, I'm going to tell you what it is here because now I'm going to screw it all up. But but basically, Morgan Housel goes through and talks basically about how so much of life is precisely the way that it's always been, and fundamentally, like I love this story that Warren Buffett talks about. He says, what was the do you know what the number one selling candy bar was in 1965? It was a Snickers. You know what the number one selling candy bar today is?
Snickers?
Yeah.
It's my favorite. If anybody asks me what my favorite candy bar is, hit
Good
it.
choice.
Right.
Good choice. Yeah. Almond Joy should be at least in your top 3. But
it's up there.
But the book is called Same as Ever, and it's a lot of showing how behavioral psychology drives so much of our life. And at the end of the day, behavioral psychology principles don't change fast enough to bring fundamental, massive change to how we as people actually evolve and conduct ourselves. We still require the same things that we did 70 years ago. We've just augmented how we do it and with what we do. The book is Same as Ever. Same as Ever. It's a great book.
And I'm sure there's people that are listening right now saying, "Come on, Eric, no flying cars like in Back to the Future." What's
Yeah,
going?
I mean,
Shoot.
we'll have those. Yeah, we will definitely have stuff like that, right? I mean, you won't have, you won't carry around your a credit card and a driver's license. Those will all be digitized on one device. In fact, your phone will probably get smaller. Yeah, you'll have like hyperspeed transportation, and hopefully, I think the world will be a better place. I really do. I've never been more optimistic about America and about the future than I am today.
Well, I love that. And again, the response to that, more of the same, and things are always changing, always evolving, but ultimately people are people, and it's funny how, if you look back in time into now, there's so many similarities. And I love the Snickers analogy that you just gave.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. We're all creatures of habit. It's just, it's so bizarre to that. And film in general, I mean, science fiction films, that they try to portray certain parts of time and how things change. And there's a lot of truth to it, but then once again, it's just through the imagination, and life is going to come and go as it does. To wrap, go ahead, Eric, go ahead.
Well, I just, this is one of the things that I've talked about a lot lately, because I was going through a list. I do a training every week called Market Monday, super creative. Just so happens to take place on Mondays, and it's about the market. Really, I know it's super mind blowing way that we came up with the name. And so I do this training, and I've got a playlist of all the content that I aggregate to put together for the week. And I was going through it. There's 432 videos on my playlist, and I was like scrolling through, and I'm going to guess that probably 95% of them were negative headlines. And so I was telling Lauren, I said I've gone through the entire full cycle. I'm like I said, I'm more optimistic today than ever, and part of it is I'm able to look back and see all of those headlines and see all of the bullshit predictions that were clickbait negativity that never happened. There's all the forecasting and all of the negativity and all the pessimism, and pessimism is sexy. Pessimism draws you in because it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel like you're someone who knows something that the rest of the crowd does not. And yet the reality is that more people wake up every day to make the world a better place than they did yesterday. And so long as people wake up every day for life to be better tomorrow than it was today, 50 years from now, the future will be better.
Oh, I love that, Eric. And you had mentioned Market Mondays, and I would love to do a shameless plug. I've been involved in several of those, by the way, just as an audience member. Incredible information. I mean, you bring it, Eric. It's great stuff. Is it okay if the audience
let's do it.
joins in on that? Something we can put in the show notes so that people can jump in on Mondays. I mean, absolutely earth-shattering information when it comes down to understanding what's going on in the market, and no fluff, no nonsense. I mean, this is straight from this man's brain. So if you like what you're hearing, you like more of what this is. But I feel that the charisma and the humor even comes out more on that closed sort of invite. But no, that'd be great, Eric, if everybody jumps in on that for sure. We'll have links in the show notes.
Yeah, the world needs accurate real estate market forecasts, because there's probably only 2 to 5 people who have who have an accurate portrayal of the real estate market. It's odd to me why it's confusing to so many others, but most people get it so terribly wrong that the sky is falling every week.
Oh, it's so true. And again, it's people love the clickbait. They love the negativity, but let's just find the honesty into it, and then find out that truth, put it in perspective. Eric, I want to ask one more question before we finish this up. I got so many more, but maybe we'll have, if everybody loves this and continues, we'll have a pop questions, Eric on the hot seat 3. But to finish this one up here, Eric, what's your favorite productivity hack for entrepreneurs? Like, what's one of your favorites to close this up?
Favorite productivity hack? Ignoring your email. Ignoring everything that's not everything that doesn't make the boat go faster. At the end of the day, that's probably actually the key most important thing, is ignore distractions and spend time either doing what makes you the most amount of money, or spend time learning. There's really only like 2 ways to to think about how to achieve productivity is how do you get better so that you hit more home runs for every at bat. That's one really fast way to be a Hall of Famer is just get more home runs for every one at bat. So that means get smarter, learn more, focus more on self-improvement, and then ignore the noise of everything, because success is simple. And funny enough, I'm writing a blog right now, and the blog's about how we should all actually strive to be average. Average is the answer. No big swings, no monster home runs every day. You should actually just wake up and decide to be consistently average.
Wow.
Because the challenging thing is, Greg, is if you think about it, most people have a really hard time consistently doing the average right thing. And if all you did every day was wake up and do a few fundamental principles consistently over the long arc of your life, you'd be so damn successful, it wouldn't even be bearable. In fact, if there's an interesting stat that if you, I was running the numbers on this, if you started out with say $10,000, $5,000, whatever it is, and you were in your 20s, you put it into the S&P 500, and you just parked it there for 50 years, and you put another $1,000 a month in. So a number that's manageable for most working class is you would have $15.9 million by the time that you retired. And the only thing you would do is buy one investment, and you just put $1,000 a month in for your working career, and you'd walk out with enough money to pass on to your kids' kids. And it only requires consistent average. No need to outbeat the market. No need to be the best investor. No need to be a hedge fund. You just put a little bit in consistently over time. The problem is funny enough, people don't have $16 million when they retire. And they don't because they can't be average consistently.
Wow. But that's a huge hack when it comes down. It's not even a hack. It's a behavioral sort of scenario. And, your initial thought was just to kind of close things out, things that are taking you away from really what is moving, the needle or pushing you in the right direction. And that simplistic of nature is to hack. I mean, put your phone on do not disturb, get all your notifications turned off, close out all your browsers and have certain action items that you're going to take. And as you said, even those simplistic of actions, at least to me, Eric, in the conversations that I've had, the best and brightest minds, they are able to quiet the noise, and they are able to have massive levels of focus. And the better you get at it for longer periods of time. I mean, just imagine you say, the average activities that are done. And if you do that compounding over time, you're going to have that. But imagine if you could do a multitude of these activities for longer periods of time, how much further you'd be able to do. Realistically, it takes practice, it takes focus and determination to get there. But boy, that's a massive thing. Just cut all the noise out and get down to the business.
And it's tough though. It's tough because the challenge you have is that if you were going to do everything, the reality is that it probably would work. Is that, if you take all these individual strategies, they probably all work well. I'll give you the example, make it real to real estate for the listeners in real estate, which is, I always think that there's 5 ways to generate business. And there's 5 lead sources. Okay. This is how it works in my mind, at least. You've got cold outreach. Those are strangers. You've got people that you already know. We call those like PCSOI. So past client and sphere of influence. You've got internet leads. And I don't care whether that's Zillow or Google or, OnlyFans, however you generate internet leads. And then there's open houses. And then you've got for sale by owners and expires. Okay. So you kind of get the entire gamut. Here's the thing is they actually all work. However, if you choose to try to do all 5 simultaneously, or if you do all 5 in the same week, or you do PCSOI for 30 days and then you decide to do expired and for sale by owners the next month, what you'll find is that probably none of them work, or at least none of them work incredibly well. And it's because they're all great strategies. What will you do consistently that you're good at, that you enjoy, and that you can do on your worst day? That's the ideal strategy.
Wow.
And it's deciding then to ignore everything else once you realize what you can do and will do consistently, even on the days that are challenging. That's the difficulty of success.
Wow. And I think that as you broke that down, we had another incredible episode. It was, I think it was misproving or proving Napoleon Hill's principles of success. And, another great one, if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. I think that is maybe a deeper topic to go down the line in a future episode, Eric, is just kind of breaking down or distilling down those aspects, kind of those hacks, the productivity hacks as people are looking, the loopholes that they can go through to really expand. And I mean, there's so much here. As always, my friend, I just love these.
If you think the audience would value it, we could, I'm willing to even do like an AI productivity hack, because that was going to be my first thing to say was automate an AI, but that's a whole longer conversation. So we'll add, if valuable to the audience, we'll add it to the list.
I love it. If you're watching this, on whatever platform it ends up being, comment AI, please. But Eric, I think regardless of what everybody says here, we should do that 100%. I mean, I think everyone is looking for, a capability, ability to do more, whether they're from the very beginning or whether they're a seasoned pro looking to really evaluate and adjust what's going on. And from somebody into your knowledge base and expertise, that's going to go a long way. So, gosh, Eric, as always, my friend, love jumping on these with you. Another incredible episode of Disruptance. And again, I would love for everybody to tune in to the Market Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll have links. You want to say a little bit about that, Eric, before we wrap up?
Well, one of the things I find is that economic information and even data is confusing. And so the challenge that most real estate business owners and most entrepreneurs have is deciding what's accurate without being overwhelmed and confused. And so my goal every week is to simplify the most important economic data and make it into actionable steps so that business owners and real estate agents can take action in a way that is most impactful every week without being overwhelmed and confused. And then they can also explain it to consumers so that they're educated and advising people how to make the best decision in alignment with their goals and the market.
Love it. Love it. And there, Eric, there's some life perspective. There's a lot of humor that's involved in there too. When people think market updates, they think, oh gosh,
I know.
Sleep. That is not the case. You trust me. Just listen to what this man has to say on a Monday and tell me if I was wrong or not. It's fun. It's a blast. It's great. There's a lot of.
I've triggered some people recently. It's been fun. That's been my goal. Every week I make all of the images and all the content is AI generated as far as like visuals are concerned, because I get bored. And, and so I almost always put politicians and like famous political figures into the show. And so depending on what side of the aisle someone's on, I always piss someone off. The other day I had Nancy Pelosi as the Grinch, and apparently someone didn't like Nancy as the Grinch, but I was like, oh, that's a good sign it's your first time, because, the week before, I think I had like Donald Trump eating crayons or something. So I am an equal opportunity offender.
Where's the sense of humor? Come on, everybody.
That's right.
Life's too short.
Not the right show for them.
Oh, I love it, Eric. Hey, well, we encourage everybody to jump in on that. We'll have links down below. We'll catch everybody in the next episode of Disruptance. We'll take care. See you, Eric.
Thanks, Greg.